I used to be a believer, not the religious kind, though it was part of it. I mean, not the other kind, the kind of where you wake up in the morning, you look in the mirror, and you say things to yourself, like good things, positive things. Things like I'm abundant, I attract what I desire, the universe is conspiring in my favor, I did the visualizations, I kept the journal, I wrote down what I wanted if I already had. All the good things. I made the vision board, and yes, I mean, I literally, the vision thing, the cutting, the pictures, the gluing things, everything from magazines, from the internet, from putting on the walls. I supposed to pull my future towards like a magnet, you know. And for a while, it was working. So that feeling, that's what I want to talk about today, because I think a lot of you know exactly what I mean. I think some of you are starting to suspect what eventually I had to admit to myself. That feeling wasn't transformation. It was relief. And there's a difference. Let me give the manifesting movement its due, because it earns its followers for a reason. It tells you that you are not hopeless, that your mind is creative, that the story of your life is not already written. After a childhood or a marriage or a decade at work where you felt like things just happened to you, that message is oxygen. It lands hard. It lands because it's partially true. You do have more agency than you have been told. Your mindset doesn't shape your experience. The stories you tell yourself do matter. But here's where the manifesting movement takes something real and breaks it. It takes that partial truth and turns it into a total claim. It says your mind doesn't just influence your reality. Your mind creates your reality. Your thoughts projected outward. Your mind, your thoughts projected outward with enough belief, enough feeling, enough frequency, they pull events, people, and outcomes towards you. You are functionally the God of your own experience. And that's where it stops being liberation and starts being a trap. The trap doesn't show itself on a good day. The trap shows itself the first time something happens that you cannot unthink. Someone you love gets sick, not a cold, I'm saying really sick. A cancer, for example, with a word that changes everything, or a relationship you build over years ends in a way that reveals you never really knew the person you thought you knew. Or you get a certain age, for example, 40 plus, and you get married and you have children, okay? I would say somewhere like around 40, and you realize that some of the things you have been visualizing for years simply are not going to happen. Not because you didn't believe enough, but because things are not yours to have. So, and I can testify this to myself. The businesses, the failures of businesses, and the successes of businesses, the things that I've seen personally happening on my life, that I saw happening towards my entire life, that I saw, okay, that is not part of any visualization or any manifestation. That is just simply part of life. Has nothing to do with manifesting. It's just the way life is. Okay, what does manifesting framework say to you in that moment? So if you follow it, it's logical, and some teachers do, okay? It says you attracted those things. You manifested those things. Somewhere in your subconscious, you wanted those or feared those enough that you called them in. Okay, think about what that actually means. It means when Rhonda let me try to pronounce her name correctly. Rhonda Byrne, author of The Secret, was asked about victims of natural disasters. She said they were the same frequency of the disaster. It means that grief is a failure of vibration. It means that your dad is a reflection of your own unconscious insufficiency. Think of that. I'm not exaggerating. Okay, that was her words. That is the logical endpoint of that, or of this theology. And anyone who has sat with real suffering knows in their guts that this is not wisdom. This is not life tension. This is not related to real life situations. It is cruelty, dressed up as empowerment. Okay, so let me be precise, because I'm not here to just criticize. I want to tell you what's actually wrong, because understanding that is the beginning of finding something way better than this. Number one, okay, it mistakes the mind for the soul. Every serious wisdom tradition in history you can name, Buddhism, Stoicism, Christianity, Sufism, Kabbalah, the Gita, draws a line between thinking mind and something deeper. They call it different things. The Stoics can call prohairesis the faculty of sovereign moral choice. The Islam calls it qalb, the spiritual heart. The Gita calls it Atman, is like the indestructible Christian mystics call it the ground of the soul. What they all agree is this: the thinking mind is not the captain, is not the one truly in charge. The mind is the servant, a useful servant, but a servant that left on its own devices will rationalize whatever it already wants to believe. So put that together with the manifesting. So Schopenhauer put it this way, okay? So the intellect is like a telescope with a very narrow field of vision, carried around by a blind man who decides where to point it. Your thoughts don't create reality. Your unconscious create your thoughts, and then your thoughts justify those drives with stories. If you build your spiritual life, your internal core spiritual life, on the authority of the thinking mind, you have built it on the one thing guaranteed to deceive you. Number two, it eliminates the one thing that actually transforms people. So Viktor Frankl, the survival of Auschwitz, he watched people in the conditions of total and complete suffering. No resources, no control, no future they could see. And he found something that defied every manifesting principle. That meaning, no positive thinking kept people alive. Not the frequency of their thoughts, the depth of their purpose. His insight was the opposite, was the complete opposite. And that's reality, okay? What Frankl saw was reality on its core, was suffering on its core, was real thing on its core. So his insight was the opposite of manifesting. It did not really matter what we expected from life, but rather what life expected from us. The most powerful spiritual transformations in human history, in every tradition, and you can look back, you can study, run through suffering, run through understanding what is reality, what is tension, what is life tension. The Buddhist monk goes into silence with pain. The Stoic practice negative visualization, deliberately imagining the worst, not to manifest the worst, but to stop being afraid of it. The Christian mystic speaks of the dark night of the soul as passage, not a failure. So just think of it. The deepest, those people that are really spiritual, that had a profound spiritual experience, those are who understand tensions and understand their tensions and reality of life. What manifesting offers is the destination without the journey. And that's not a gift. That is a shortcut to nowhere. Number 3, it makes you alone. At the center of manifesting model is a single individual projecting their desires outward into a universe that responds to their frequency. Other people in this model are either allies of your wavelength or obstacles that lower your vibration. The oldest wisdom traditions in the world say to the opposite. The Buddha said that spiritual friendship, kalyana mitata, is the whole of the holy life, not a supplement to it, the whole thing. Aristotle said the human being is a social animal in the deepest sense, not just that we prefer company, but that we literally cannot become ourselves alone. Real transformation is not a solo project. You cannot accomplish things by yourself, No, you can't. It is something that happens between people. Even if here's a person that is, I'm financially successful, and I know that the money, that I want to quote unquote attract comes from a person that I have to help, that I have to collaborate to, and then that person has the quote unquote money that I quote unquote have to attract. So there's no way to simply attract the money. It's not a solo project. And especially when you build a family. Anyhow, manifesting is a deeply lonely philosophy dressed up as abundance. So, what's the alternative? I want to be honest with you. The alternative is harder. It doesn't promise you that your desires will materialize. It doesn't tell you that the universe is calibrated to your frequency. It asks something different. It asks you to look at your suffering directly, not to eliminate it, but to understand it, because every tradition that has ever produced a genuinely transformed human being started there, not with what you want to attract, but with what is actually true about your life right now. That's the point A, if you want to get to point B. And then it asks you to locate beneath the noise of the point A, the noise of the thinking mind, which is completely noisy and is just moment, is stuck into that moment. Beneath this present time, beneath the craving and the fear and the stories that are running now into your mind, something that does not break, something that the Gita describes as beyond the birth and death, something Thomas Merton called a point of pure truth at the center of your being, untouched by sin or illusion. Call it the soul. This is not a metaphor. A real faculty. This is a real faculty. The place where genuine choice lives. The place where meaning is found rather than it's manufactured. The place where Frankel found steel operating in the concentration camp when the mind had every reason to collapse, and his mind was collapsing during a concentration. There was no reason to move forward. The work of the soul is not projection, is awakening. And awakening always begin with telling the truth. Listen, awakening always begin telling the truth to yourself about where you are and who you are. So, to wrap it up, I quit manifesting the day I realized I had been using it to avoid one conversation that I needed to have with myself, a true, real conversation with myself, not with the universe, not with my subconscious frequency, a real conversation with myself and with God, with the actual facts of my actual life. What I have found on the other side of that conversation is something quieter than manifesting promises, less dramatic, but real in a way that vision boards never were. I found that suffering, when you stop running from it, has something to teach. I found that the will faces things honestly, not the will to attract things. It what actually changes a person. I found that when you do what work alongside other people who are also doing it, something happens that no amount of solo visualization can replicate. So that's what the order is built on. Not a promise to remove your suffering, a commitment to walk through it with you, to give you the tools that 25 centuries of world's deepest thinkers developed for exactly that purpose. If that sounds like something you need or something you've been looking for without knowing what to call it, you can click below to know more about the order, or you can just try to contact me, or you can just subscribe to this channel for more videos, okay? Thanks for watching.